This happened to me and my friends 20 years ago. I am now a 38-year-old female. I live in Tennessee and we have a place here called Little Egypt, which is basically a swimming hole which me and my friends have been to a million times before at night. It was the middle of summer and the county fair was in town, so me, my twin sister and two of our friends had gone to hang out like teenagers do. We had run into our mum, stepdad and little sister while we were at the fair and told our mum that we were going to Little Egypt to goof off, as we had done a lot that summer. I remember she specifically told me and my twin sister not to go down there that late because anything could happen to us. We, being 18 at the time, acted like typical teenagers and we didn't listen to our mum and told her that she was crazy and that nothing bad would happen to us. We decided to wait until midnight and then make our way to the swimming hole, with me and my friend Lisa in one car and my twin sister and our friend Heather in another car. Now, when you get to the swimming hole, it is far out into the woods, probably about 10 minutes away from any civilization and nowhere to turn around unless you go up the road. We pull in and get out of our cars. We are still standing pretty close to the cars as we hadn't gotten our flashlights and other stuff from out of them yet. I start to walk towards the car my twin sister was standing at, and all of a sudden I hear what sounds like a stick breaking. I looked at my sister and whispered, "Did you hear that?" To which she replied with, "Yeah," and that maybe it was just Lisa messing with us. We tell Lisa to quit trying to scare us and that it isn't funny. This is when my blood runs cold as Lisa replied, I didn't do anything." And all of a sudden we hear what sounds like multiple sticks breaking. My sister and Heather jump back in their car as I ran to Lisa's car. We barely jump in her car in time, to which I nearly broke my shoulder trying to get in so fast. I don't know how we got the cars turned around in the little space we had, but as we did, we looked back to see 6 guys dressed head to toe in black, wearing masks. They had jumped out of the woods right where we were parked and were chasing us with baseball bats as we managed to drive away. About 3 days later, we decided to go back down there and were met with police crime tape everywhere. Some other people were there, so we asked them what had happened. They said that some guy had got beat to death 3 nights ago, the same night the 6 guys had jumped out on us. I thank God we got away that night, but my heart breaks for the family and the poor guy that lost his life that night. Edit. We did call the police that night after we left, and they just told us that there was probably some young kids playing a prank and messing with us, generally being no help at all. But to the 6 guys that jumped out in the woods at us, let's hope we never meet again. This took place a few decades ago. It was a normal evening that turned into a fairly normal night. I got home, kicked my shoes off, my girlfriend got home, we had dinner, watched some TV, got a bit handsy while watching TV, let the dog out, and then pretty much raced into our bedroom to work off some of that energy the handsiness had built up. When we were done, we went to sleep. I was woken up at 4 AM by a loud bang outside. I didn't know where the bang came from or what it sounded like. I just know I definitely heard something. My girlfriend did too. A second bang came from our back garden a few minutes later. This time, it sounded like something had just hit our fence. I thought it was just a fox or something, but decided to put my clothes and boots on and go make sure anyway. I opened my bedroom door and was hit with a cold blast. It was the end of March, so it wasn't freezing, but it was definitely colder in the hallway than it was in my room. That was weird. I went downstairs and immediately saw why. My back door was wide open. That's weird. I thought I remembered to close the door when I went upstairs. Maybe I hadn't. I went outside and looked around. Nothing out of the ordinary. I went back inside and did a sweep of my house with the knife in my hand. Nothing. I closed and locked the door. My dog was sat in her bed in the kitchen, so I gave her a few pets while I had a glass of water. I then went back to bed. I was woken up again, but this time by the sound of my dog barking and growling. I flipped the covers off myself and raced downstairs in my pajamas. I turned the corner and burst into my kitchen so hard that I later found out I ruined the hinges on my kitchen door. There was a man crouched over my dog, strangling her. I remember yelling, "What the hell?" and ran at this man as fast as I could. He couldn't even turn around by the time I grabbed his hair, pulled him off my dog, and I slammed his head into my refrigerator and let him flop to the ground. I yelled up to my girlfriend to call the police. I got a closer look at him while he pulled himself off the floor. His hair was greasy and was grown to cover his eyes, and he was dressed in a wholly black t-shirt with pants with no shoes. He reeked of piss. My poor dog was cowering behind me. The man was stood back up now and was easily 6 foot and really skinny, almost emaciated. When I slammed his head into my refrigerator, I heard a crack, which, after seeing how twig-like this guy was, I'm pretty sure that was his skull cracking. He was so bony. His movements looked unnatural. From what I could see of his face, he had protruding cheekbones and had no meat at all to cover up any of his facial structure. I got ready to punch him in the face and hopefully knock him back down, but before I could, he started screaming. Just this loud, unnatural shrill that still fills me with fear when I think about it to this day. It threw me off guard. He made a beeline for the kitchen door and I chased him. What if he was going for my girlfriend? Once he made it out, he ran at my front door, flung it open, and booked it down the street, still shrieking at the top of his lungs. I told the police everything, and they got some sketches done. That's all that ever came from that though. He's still out there. My dog was fine. I took her to get a checkup the next day to make sure nothing in her neck was damaged and she was all good. But I still get scared whenever something goes bump in the middle of the night. This is a story that happened to my mum's friend in Korea about 10 years ago. Every time I hear this story, I still get the chills. My mum's friend lived in an apartment complex in Seoul. She was a stay-at-home mother with a young daughter, and her husband worked during the days. One day, she was coming home from running errands with her daughter and got onto the elevator in her building. When she got on, she noticed that there was a man wearing a cap and a yellow raincoat, keeping his head low so that you couldn't really see his face. She immediately felt really uneasy and made her daughter stand to her side, furthest away from the man. What made her feel even more uncomfortable was that when she pressed the button to her floor, there was no other number lit. And on top of that, she noticed that he was carrying something wrapped inside newspaper close to his side. Things started to click inside my mum's friend's head, and she started to panic and decided to take out her cell phone and pretend she was calling home to her husband, who was obviously really not at home and at work. She started saying things like, "Oh, I'm on the elevator and about to get off. Can you get the door for me?" And making it seem like her husband was waiting at home for her. When the elevator did reach her floor, she quickly got off and grabbed her daughter and started to walk as fast as she could to her apartment. She noticed that the man also got off on her floor and slowly followed her down a hallway. When my mum's friend got to her door, she started to bang on it and shout, "Hey dear, I'm home. Please open the door," and kind of pretend like he was coming to answer the door. Upon seeing this, the man in the yellow raincoat started to walk back towards the elevator. When he seemed to be far enough away, my mum's friend quickly picked up her daughter and slid open her door's passcode key and started to frantically punch in her key code. But the problem with this was that the buttons would make sounds, so the man knew that no one was going to answer the door for her, and he turned around and started running full pace back towards her. My mum's friend, at this point, was practically screaming, and when she finally got her door to open, the first thing she did was throw her daughter in the door. When she got in herself, she saw that the man was pretty much inches from the door, but she managed to shut it and lock it before he could wedge his hand or any potential weapon into the door. Afterwards, looking through the door's peephole, she saw that the man was walking away back towards the elevator. Several months later, my mum's friend was watching the news, and there was a coverage on a capture of a serial killer named Yoo Young-chul, who used to kill a lot of prostitutes. She told my mum that she could never forget the dread she felt when she saw the all too familiar yellow raincoat and hat that he was wearing when apprehended. Hey everyone, welcome to my new channel. Here, I will cover anything and everything horror. I decided to make this channel as I, like all of you, love listening to the horror story channels here on YouTube, and have been going through a bit of a rough patch in my personal life, so I needed something to take my mind off it. I want this channel to be as much mine as it is yours, so if you have any stories you would like me to narrate, please send to the email on screen at iroshen@gmail.com. I would love to hear your guys' life experiences. Also, if you have any tips for me and anything you feel I could improve on, please let me know in the comments below. Sorry if the audio is not as good as it can be, as I could only afford a cheap little microphone and are desperately trying to save up for a better one. And on that note, I know the holidays are coming up for everyone, so I wish you all a happy holiday, and remember to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.